I closed that loan in 10 days, and I remember my paycheck. I mean, this during COVID, the rates were super low. I closed them out like 1.75%, 30-year fixed. My commission on that loan was 10 grand,
Mm.
10,000 is what I made. Like, heck yeah, I got money. I could pay my mortgage. And I remember going back to that Chili's and I gave the waitress, like the bartender, $5,000. Like, here you go.
Got questions, we bring the facts. From proven pros who walk the tracks. Business life, no smoke, just flames. Ask the experts, David Williams brings the game.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Ask the Experts. I'm about to bring in today's guest, Mr. Jeremy King. I'm going to bring him on video here and give him a very warm welcome, and then we're going to dive right in. So, Jeremy, really excited to have you on and welcoming our audience here, Ask the Experts. Every single week, we bring on experts from around the country that have expertise on running businesses, scaling teams, and operating at the highest levels. And normally, okay, for our audience, we bring in feature leaders and experts around the insurance industry. But today we're crossing over into a space to pull out of the lessons and everything that can be learned from the mortgage industry at the highest levels. Our guest is Jeremy King. He's one of the top mortgage brokers in the entire nation. And he's built one of the highest performing mortgage companies in Florida. His team, the Lone Rangers, representing on his shirt today, consistently ranks in the top 1%, both statewide and nationally. His story goes way beyond mortgages, though. I met Jeremy for a personal need that we had as a family, and they took amazing care of us. But Jeremy spent nearly 20 years working for the Defense Department before experiencing a life-changing experience, which we can get into today. And from that moment forward, there was a spark that happened, and I can't wait to dive into his story. But you know, the next chapter of his story involves relentless drive and the Mamba mentality and an absolute commitment to excellence. In just 5 years in the mortgage industry, Jeremy has gone from starting out solo to building an award-winning team, mastering sales, customer acquisition, communication, team building, scaling, and high performance all along the way, while having faith infused and purpose infused in that journey louder than anything else. So he was born and raised right here in the Tampa Bay area where I'm at as well, attended Blake High School. And today he's not only a leader in his industry, but an incredible resource for business owners. And I know also a godsend for his clients as well. So Jeremy, it's so good to have you onto the show, man. It's good to see you again, and welcome and happy Thursday. How are you?
Man, that was a great intro. That's awesome. So I appreciate that. So happy Thursday, everybody that's listening in, as well as you, Andy.
Thank you so much, man. It's a well-deserved intro. I could even do much better on it because I think you meet a few people in your life that when you run across them, you go, wow. The level of expertise I experience, the things they're able to move for you to get things done. But to do that, you've got to have the skill and you got to have that Mamba mentality, which I've seen you. I mean, in context, Jeremy is the type of officer that would call me at 11:30 at night if I needed, and willingly, gladly problem solve things literally right before the stroke of midnight and put in the work to get things done. But what's even more incredible is witnessing his team and the fact that they all operate at that level. And I think that's the other half of the challenge is like you can be great, but to build a great team, that's a whole nother skill set. So before we kind of get into the days of the Lone Rangers, okay, and what you're doing today, I'd love to go back to Defense Department days and what you were doing prior to that. You know, 20 years is a long time. So I'm sure there's a lot of history there. Do you mind giving us a bit of a history lesson on Jeremy King and just what you were doing kind of prior to the mortgage industry and ultimately what led you up into the mortgage industry?
Yeah, man, I actually was a mass communications major at USF, and my aunt back in the day married a high up for the Pentagon. And I remember we were at a Christmas party, and he came over. He's like, "Hey, would you like a job?" And I was at the time I was working for Home Depot, and he said, "I'm going to get you in and have you sweep some floors, but I'm going to pay you 36,000 a year." I was like, and a college kid, I'm like, "Heck yeah, this is awesome." So I got into it. It was a company called L3 Communications, Department of Defense. I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. I thought it was just, oh, sweep some floors, make some money, go, some free money. I was still living at home. And, I got into it. And I remember the first day I walked in, they were testing, like satellites, and I didn't realize like so Spaywar was the contractor like for all the special forces. I'm like, wow, this is cool. Like I'm testing all the satellite equipment for Navy SEALs and all that good jazz. And
Mm,
within 3 weeks, I was like, I don't want to sweep floors no more. I want to be out there doing the test beds. I want to be traveling. And about a month later, I passed my CCNA, got my cert that quick. Probably one of the fastest ever to do it. And at the time, my lead was like, "Are you insane?" I'm like, I don't want to sweep floors no more. I want to be out there." Got to travel all over the country. Trained in the military. I got to test the Gator, which is a blow up satellite, which was incredible. 20 years into it, worked myself up to a network engineer 5 at SOCOM. Worked at CENTCOM, SOCOM, did a lot of traveling. Never was active duty,
mm.
but I wish I was. But I got to do all the stuff. Got the convoy. Was a big part of the lone survivor rule. And if anybody hasn't seen the movie, you definitely should. Mark Wahlberg, but it's pretty much back then comms dropped, and the troops were a lot of military was killed. Besides him, he survived, but they implemented a lone survivor rule, like they have to have comms no matter what. So I was part of that
Mm.
task force. But cool experience, got to see a lot of stuff, got to meet a lot of people, got to train a lot of people that are pretty famous now in the current presidential administration. So that was awesome. So seeing them on TV is like, I remember they sat in my classroom and I taught them how to do basic networking to keep their security clearance. So super cool. Did that for 20 years. Well, going on 20 years till June 18th, 2020 happened. And not sure if Andy, if you want to keep going with it or if you want to intro into it or how you want to do it. But
Yeah, I mean, if you, we talked a little bit about this ahead of time to
mm,
make sure you were okay
yeah.
sharing it, but just for a bit of background for our audience, I remember chatting with my wife was working with Jeremy to start with on our project, and she's like, he just shared this insane story with me. You should ask him about it, and it kind of rocked me, man. To be honest, kind of hearing it, I'd love if you wouldn't mind kind of sharing like in 2020 what happened, and just anything you aren't willing to share would be amazing, man. Because your story's wild.
Yeah, that week of June 18th, we were during COVID, and at the bases, we had to run skeleton crews because of social distance rules of 6 feet. So we had half our crew at off base location, half on the base. A lot of people got COVID that week. We were short staffed. We were doing a bombing mission to bomb a terrorist, and as many people may or may not realize, you can't cancel that. A lot of planning, a lot of prep, a lot of getting people in line, making sure they're at where they're at to take this person out. They killed a lot of American soldiers.
Hmm.
Well, the morning of, I woke up and was vomiting up blood quite a bit, um, due to stress, different things. I tried to call in and said, "Hey, I can't make it." They're like, "Well, the other guy has COVID, so we need you here. Like, we can't just like cancel a bombing mission. We have flights and all kinds of crazy stuff." And I remember getting my car from Tampa, and Andy, as you know, we have the crosstown to get you to the base. It was during COVID. I drove on the crosstown the wrong way, due to lack of sleep and lack of blood, and almost hit a cement truck head on. Um, Luckily, there was no traffic due to COVID. Got off. I remember I had a brand new Camry and pulled into the parking garage and was on the phone with my father at the time and just talking to him, and went to back my car in and just out of it and backed my car right to the wall. And I remember getting out and just vomiting blood all over the ground. Um, Long story short, I went in, we did the mission about 10:15 at night. I remember standing up and looking at a guy that was working there, and I said, I just don't feel good. And I collapsed. Went unconscious. They put me in an ambulance. I pretty much coded. I didn't have a pulse for almost 5 minutes. Bayshore Boulevard, which is very famous down in Tampa. People that's not in the area would definitely probably seen on news before, time and time again, the Gasparilla Parade. But that's where I essentially coded. I saw Jesus. I saw heaven. I saw him get closer and closer to me with a light, and I woke up in a hospital. I got my phone and found out the woman I was with for going on 7 years was leaving me. My neighbor's like, "Hey, there's a U-Haul at your house. What's going on?" I ripped IVs out and walked out of the hospital. Didn't know what was going on. I remember coming home, stuff was gone. Went back to McDill, and I remember pulling up to SOCOM. And keep in mind, this is like 6, 7 hours after I died. I remember pulling back up to the base, and the guy at the front like double take my ID, and like it was weird. Like it was like this weird like Like I was like non-existent. I remember pulling in, I parked, I walked into SOCOM. They already had my job posted because life goes on. I guess they assumed I died. I
Wow.
went in. I remember there was a tall gentleman there named Jason. I tapped on the shoulder. He turned around and turned white as a ghost, like he saw like Jesus, kind of like how Thomas did in the Bible stories, where he had Jesus put his finger, he put his finger through Jesus's hole in his hand. And yeah, I saw like a card that people were signing for my death, the whole 9 yards. But I saw heaven and Jesus, and I tell people, even my fiance now, when we go to like buy PF Chang's, which is a bigger establishment down here, and I think it's nationwide. They always have a big white horse. I'm like, that's the horse I saw. I remember at the time I was going to a church and I called my pastor and kind of told him what happened. And he's like, "You ever seen Heaven's for Real?" I was like, "Nah, I don't really watch movies. If it's not sports, I'm not going to watch it." And I watched that night, the 24 hours after I died, and the kids saw the same thing, the horse. So I called him back. It was like 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. And he's like, "Yeah, you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I just watched the movie. The same thing I saw." He's like, "Well, watch this girl from Europe." And I did, and she's very famous through YouTube. I think she's from like Romania or something, but she drew the face of Jesus. Like she was autistic, so she kind of struggled with stuff, but she drew it perfect. It was the same thing I saw. Needless to say, I was put on medical leave for quite a while, from June till Christmas. Christmas Eve, I was getting ready for church. Um, got my clothes, got dressed, and SOCOM called. I was like, "This is cool. Like, this is awesome. Like, they're gonna wish me Merry Christmas," because I worked my tail off to get back. I was gonna go back the 1st of January to my position. Um, you know, they let me know that they were letting me go due to different things, and I was like, "You got to be kidding me." So here I go. I'm getting ready to go to church, and I remember like the pastor was speaking. I just remember going to the altar, like everybody's looking. I thought I was quiet, but I guess I was just talking out loud. And I remember it's like, "Hey, like the girl that left me, like I paid for her pharmacy degree. I was living on like 60% disability, so my money was tight, and I just lost my job, like my career. Like, what do we do now?" And I remember like the pastor was talking on that service about like let God lead and He'll show you the way, and pretty much to summarize it. And I remember I came home and my high school Spanish teacher, who's also like a second mom to me, she's Cuban, and Spanish culture on Christmas Eve, they throw down. They make lots of food. They throw down. So I came back. I was like, okay, I'm gonna change from my church clothes. I'm gonna go ahead and throw some more comfortable clothes on because they do games, all kinds of stuff. So you can't really wear like jeans and long shirts, sleeve shirts. And I remember I sat on the bed and I went on Facebook. I was like, let me just see what everybody's doing. And I went to scroll and it popped up MEC, which is mortgage educator. It's like pretty much you do your online training. I'm like, huh, and it said you can get your license in 20 hours. So you take the 20-hour course and pass the test. I'm like, okay. And I sat down and I was like, maybe this is what I was just like praying for. Like, it's kind of cool. Like, all right, let's just figure it out. So I remember I sat down. I didn't go to that party. I went there and paid my $239. And at the time, you could do the course straight. And I still joke with them to this day. I was like, you must have made the Jeremy rule because now you have to break it up for days. But I sat there and I did the 20-hour course straight. Like I didn't sleep. I did it. I think I was extra motivation because I'm like, crap, I just lost my career. I gotta do something. Blew my family off. My parents still late on Christmas. And I remember showing up. I was like, I'm gonna be a mortgage guy now. Like I think I'm gonna do this. And my dad just looked at me. He's like, "Are you kidding me? Like, you have all this IT, all these security, security clearances. You have all these, certifications, and the
Mhm.
highest ones you have around. You're just gonna." I was like, "Well, I kind of lost my job, so I kind of got to do something. I don't want to wait around no more." And I was like, "Well, I'm taking the test in 2 days." Like, and I remember I went in there, and first I tried to do it online, and it didn't work. They're like, "Hey, can you come to the office in Tampa, Mariner Boulevard, in 2 hours?" I'm like, "Okay." I'll get it because for some reason technology wasn't working. And I went there and they give you like 3 hours to take the test. It's 120 questions. And I went there and you put your stuff in the little locker. And so I was like, okay, cool. And I sat down and the test starts. And keep in mind, I didn't know what an FHA loan was. I didn't know what a VA loan was. I went from an IT guy to a mortgage guy in, like overnight. And I sat down. The first question, I still remember it was like, what's the down payment, minimum down payment for an FHA loan? Anybody in their right mind knows it's 3.5%. And I remember the question, the answer was like 3.5, 5%, 7%, 9%. And so you could flag the questions. So I flagged it and I was like, all right, I'll come back to it. Like, keep in mind, like looking back now, like, wow, I wasn't very smart. Um, so I flagged it and then it was weird. Like the next question like popped up and it was weird. Like it came up, but the screen was like very blurry, but the answer was bold. It was like popping out. And I was like, well, maybe this is another sign and who knows? And I just clicked the bold one and they kept going for 119 questions. And it brought me back to like I said, every question was bolded, everything else was blurry. It was like the weirdest thing. Maybe it's just my eyes, but that's what I saw.
Wow.
Um, and so I went back to the first one I flagged and I selected 7%. Yeah. I know what FHA down payment is now. It's 3.5, but I flagged 7 and I clicked submit, and I was like, "Yep, I'm probably." I remember my mindset was like, "I'm gonna fail, like whatever, like it is what it is." And the thing spins, Andy. It's like this little thing is like the spiel of death, what I call it. It just kept spinning and spinning, and it popped up, so you passed. And I remember I raised my hand, and they came in because keep in mind, like they give you 3 hours. I was done in less than 10 minutes, like 9 minutes and 48 seconds. I was done.
Holy cow.
And I remember the girl like walked in and she's like, "Let me see your arms, your legs." I'm like, "All right, like I passed. Like here you go."
Oh, like you're
There,
cheating? She's like, let me, where's the,
yeah, like they gave you a piece of paper to like do like math questions on, and they're looking at it. I was like, "There's nothing there." Like they're looking under the desk, they're looking on the desk. They're checking my pockets. They checked my socks. I had white socks on to see if I had answers on it. It was the weirdest thing, and they gave it to me, and I had missed one question. It was the first question. It was the FHA question. Everything else I got right. Um, yeah, 99%. And I remember, so okay. And keep in mind, like I'm broke. Like I had to borrow some money from my parents because I was struggling. And there's a Chili's by the stadium, so I went in there, and if if not, if you don't know, you know now. Like you can go to the bar and they give you free chips and queso, or chips and sauce. I'm sorry. So I went to the bar and I went to the bartender and I was like, "Hey, can I get some chips and sauce and a water?" I'm keeping my I had no money, and I went in there. I sat down and I was hungry, and it kind of felt like Jesus, fed people that were hungry. That's how I felt. I looked at the bartender like his Jesus because I was starving, I had no money.
mm,
And I sat down, and this guy sits beside me, and I don't know, small talk, and I don't know how it came out. I was like, yeah, I just passed this stupid test, and I don't know, I lost my career. I don't know. I'm just praying for a miracle. Like I'm about to lose my house. I'm about to lose everything if I don't get something going. My money's been drained because I paid off $100,000 pharmacy degree for my ex, and 60% barely gets you by. I was eating a lot of ramen noodles. Nothing wrong with ramen noodles, but they got me through for a long time. But I remember I told the bartender, I was like, "Hey, can you like just slide me a little bit of queso? Like I like to have a little substance. I don't have no money, but I told her, I said, I remember telling her, I was like, when I get a job, I'll come back and tip you well. And, she gave me some queso. It was great. And I remember talking to the guy and he's like, "Oh, I'm with this company and I'm a high up. I'm here for training. And would you like a job?" I was like, "Well, yeah, but I need to make money in like 2 weeks." He's like, "Well, how about this VA loan?" I was like, "Okay, cool. I'll do it." And I was like, "But I got to get paid in 2 weeks." And keep in mind, Andy, I didn't know what I was doing. I closed that loan in 10 days. And I remember my paycheck. I mean, this during COVID, the rates were super low. I closed them out like 1.75%, 30-year fixed. My commission on that loan was 10 grand,
mm.
10,000 is what I made. Like, heck yeah, I got money. I could pay my mortgage. And I remember going back to that Chili's and I gave the waitress, like the bartender, $5,000. Like, here you go. And that's how it started. I stayed with that company briefly, and then I got to the mortgage broker world. Bounced around a couple of companies that didn't do me so right, and I found my niche at Castle Rock. And I never thought in a million years a guy 5 years ago was on his deathbed. And keep in mind, Andy, I think I've told you this. I might have told your wife. A lot of people in the industry call me toe tag,
Hmm.
because they were sending me to the morgue. I'm supposed to be in a casket right now, or who knows? I might have been cremated. Who knows what they would have done? But I was getting ready to be toe tagged and taken to the ice box. So a lot of people call me toe tag, like to this day. I'm in the industry that know my story, but I I never would think in, 5 years, I went from a guy that died at work, didn't know what I was going to be doing in life, thought I was going to lose my house, live back with my parents, to building a strong mortgage team, being 1%, not just at, a basic lender, but for the United States, for Florida, and to build a team like of great people that, and, granted, I still work 120, 130 hours a week, just
I
the
know you do.
mentality I have, but I build a team and we all do well and we make dreams happen. And, we're blessed. Like, I just did a loan a couple weeks ago. It was a single mom with a child, and her daughter got sick and she had to miss work, and she had a debt to income ratio. And my team, we did it for free. We took our commission and bought the rate down to get her closed. Um,
Mm.
it's, it's a blessing. But when I came into this, Andy, because I know you touched on the Mamba mentality. Um, that's what I instilled because I grew up a sports fan. So I grew up with like Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, Kobe Bryant, and I watched them, and they would be upset and angry when they lose. They didn't do well with like finishing second, and I was like, I'm gonna come into this industry. I'm gonna instill that. Like, I'm not gonna be okay with being second. I'm never gonna congratulate my competition. I'm gonna be upset. Like, and a lot of people, they laugh this day, like, Jeremy, you can't do every loan. I want to, just like Michael Jordan wanted to get every championship, Kobe Bryant wanted to get every bucket, Tom Brady wanted to get every ring. That's just the mentality I instilled in my team. The same thing. I tell them, like, do not be friends with any other mortgage brokers in the industry unless they're on our team, um,
Mm.
and never be okay with being second. And I go to realtor offices now, and that's the crazy thing. Like, big producing realtor offices call this guy Jeremy that 5 years ago died at work, to speak and inspire them and how they can be better. I'm like, and I take a step back and I'm looking at some of these realtors like, you're like top five in the United States, and you're having me come in and instill mentality. But I teach them the same thing, Andy, and I think this can help a lot of people listening in. Like, in business, you should be kind of like, maybe, I don't know the best word, but you should not be okay being second no matter what. You should never congratulate your competition. You should always look for ways to outdo them. And that's why I work so many hours, because I see my competition. They're out at the bars, they're sleeping. And my mentality is like, while they're sleeping, I'm getting better. I'll be at the gym, and a lot of times in the gym, I have like videos on, listen guidelines. I'm not listening to like, hip hop or rock music. I'm listening to, what's the newest FHA guideline. And that's what I teach my team. Like, if you don't have nothing to do, you should be learning guidelines. And that's what anything in business,
Mm.
you should always want to be the best. It's just a different edge. But I came in and started out solo with just a processor, and it grew. When I came in, I was like, if I do 2 loans a month, that pays my bills. I can save a little money. Now I average 40, 50, 60 loans a month. And now that I built a bigger team, I mean, there's no reason why we can't do 100. But I came into it too, and a lot of people's like, you'll never make it. You're never going to keep doing what you're doing. I was like, but I want to be that change in the industry. So what I did is I think I talked to you about this too. I'm a baseball fan. So I grew up, and I was like, I grew up a Tony Gwynn fan. Everybody loved Mark McGuire back in the day. Chicks loved long ball. There was commercials like Greg Maddux made the commercial. I was that guy, or even Greg Maddux, for that degree. But Tony Gwynn, he'd get base hits. He wouldn't hit a lot of home runs. He'd score a lot of runs. He'd hit 380, um, pushing 400 every year. Consistency. Um, and that's what I brought in the industry. I was like, I'm going to hit 380. I'm going to be that 300 hitter. I'm going to keep just bringing loans, and I keep my commission low to keep my rates low. Whereas a lot of people in my industry, they're like Mark McGuire or Barry Bonds. They're swinging for the fences. And as you know, a home run hitter, they strike out more than they play home, or put the ball in the seats. And that's the edge I have. I keep commission low, that keeps the rates low, and I just round the bases, and I keep rounding them and rounding them while everybody else is trying to swing for home runs. It's a blessing I have. It's always worked. But I also did, when I came in, I had another guy that I worked with in IT for a very long time, and his wife was a realtor. He got into the mortgage world briefly, and I called him. I was like, "Hey, Justin, man," like, and I was going through a dark time. So he met me at, believe it or not, he met me at Bahama Breeze. And keep in mind, after I saw Heaven, I still was suicidal a few times. And I remember hitting up Justin. I was like, "Hey, man, I'm about ready to kill myself. Like, I'm just to that point, dark space." And um, he met me at Bahama Breeze in Brandon, and we sat down, and I was like, I'm kind of struggling like with this a little bit. He's like, Jeremy, you're trying to be like, you've never been like everybody else. You've always been unique. Be different. So I looked at it. I was like, okay, let me see how I can be different. So I brought it in. I was like, all right, I don't like the word clear to close. I think it's boring. I think it's old fashioned. I brought in Kiss the Baby. It stuck. I would have a logo with like red lips, and I'd say "Kiss the Baby" when we got clear to close. And the reason why I got from that is when a couple has a baby, everybody's happy, they're smiling, they're kissing the baby.
Yep.
When you call someone and say, "Hey, you're essentially clear to close, you're going to get this house, you're done," it's essentially the same happiness as "Kiss the Baby." I actually called a client yesterday, a grown man, high up military, and he cried on the phone that he's getting a house. And I'm like, man, this is like a real, like real life "Kiss the Baby." Um,
Yeah, can
but
we
I brought
like
that
I want
in.
to hang out on that for a second because one of the things that stuck out that you told me 6 months ago or something
Mm,
is that after you died and you came back, I
mhm,
like it seems like there was just a massive shift in like the way you operate to be like very purpose driven and to know that like you have a specific purpose and a lot of what you're talking about, right, is impact the single
mhm,
mom who's going through it and you guys just ate the commission so you could help get her through on the debt to income ratio. This gentleman you just spoke with higher up in the military, being able to see that success, none of what you've said is like this is how much money we're making or like this is our assets. You guys will be fine on money. You help enough people that you'll be taken care of by God and by the industry. But I'm really curious for you, like maybe some of the rewiring from the near death experience and like you talk a lot about like impacting people and just I'd love to understand maybe the shift that happened and what that looks like for you today versus maybe how you thought about money 5 or 10 years ago before this, if that makes sense.
so I used to be a big planner. And I would like always stress about like I gotta have this X amount in the bank. I gotta have this. I gotta plan out trips. I gotta plan this. I gotta plan that. I gotta plan my day. Gotta structure. Gotta structure. And when everything happened, I learned like life is short. You gotta kind of like go with the flow, if that makes sense.
Mm.
And that's what I do. And same with like my business. And a lot of like my team says it's a gift I have because I see stuff they don't. I don't know if it maybe it is. I don't know, but I look at it as like truly feel like God brought me back because he knew they needed someone good in the mortgage industry to kind of help people. And again, I've been offered like 4, 5, $6 million like sign-on bonuses to go be like presidents of big banks to fix their mortgages. And I've turned them down every time. I was like, but your rates are bad. How am I going to fix that, help that single mom? How now the old Jeremy before he died would like, heck yeah, 6 million, 4 million. You're giving me Brown season tickets and flying from Tampa to every home game. I'm all about it. But it it was like it's like a mental shift. Like, no, I'm here for a purpose. Um, my time is a blessing, and my goal is to get people in homes. And Andy, as you know, like I'll do whatever I have to legally to do it. If I have to shave my commission to $1 to do it to make it work, I will. Because you got to keep in mind my background. My father was a concrete and block mason. My mom was a bartender and waitress, like very blue collar. They worked their tails off. My dad would push concrete blocks. He did room additions. So he'd push a stack of 12 blocks for 12 cent a wheelbarrow. He'd push a lot of blocks. So even if I make $1, like that's a lot of concrete blocks to push, you know. My mom was blue collar, and I relate to like I relate to everybody, but like I like helping the blue collars that these big banks just they're in it for a paycheck. And I my trophy is, and again, a lot of people in my industry, they love like self-absorbed. They love like
Look at me.
post right. They love like posting up, and I always make fun of them like the end of the year, first year, like, oh, here comes trophy season. And a lot of office like give each other trophies, and they join these clubs. And like there's one in Tampa, and they meet every Thursday, and they have this big gala, and they all give each other trophies, but you have to be spending $5,000 a year or you can't be nominated. And I'm like, oh, look at them. They post their trophies. My trophy is getting a family's keys in hand. That's my trophy. I don't do well. And I was with my fiance last year in Daytona, and I had a high up guy want to put me on the magazine cover for real estate. And I was like, well, first off, I mean, I'm sorry, people, if you're looking at my face right now. I don't have the face for a cover of a magazine. But I also was like,
Beg to
I don't
differ.
really,
Beg to differ.
yeah, I don't really have like like I'm not in this business to like look at me. I want to be on magazines. There's a lot of lenders in our industry that do billboards like your forever lender and different things. Like I don't do well with that. I got a lot of trophies, and the only reason why I posted on social media the end of last year my trophies because I wanted to shout out my team. Yeah, they came in Jeremy King's name, one top 1%, top in just got top in the United States for the first half. But the reason why I post them now is not to be self-absorbed. And if you go back and look at it, it's literally like, let me shout out all my realtors, let me shout out my team, my processors, let me shout out like, my team lead, Jimmy Stringer, or Crystal Pentai, or the blue collar people I have on my team, because I'm just the face. Like, we have a team, just like Tom Brady was the face, but they had a team of linemen and stuff, and that's how I look at it. Like, my team's the lineman, I'm the quarterback, and that's how the shift changes. Because again, if I didn't have that near death experience and know like life is precious and it's a blessing, I would have jumped on that $4, $5, $6 million sign on bonus, and I'd be not talking to you right now, Andy. I probably be like everybody else, having rates in the six and the seven instead of in the fours and fives. And but yeah, I was it hard? Yeah, it would have set me up for long term. But I was like, you know what? God's gonna bless me, and I'm here in favor of Him, and that's how I look at it. But that's how I structure my day. We close a lot of loans, and the pipeline gets low. It goes in waves, and I always say to myself, yeah, God's got me. He'll give me more loans. I'm good. We'll hit a hard loan, and our favorite thing to say on our team is like dodging bullets. But I'm like, gotta provide. If it's meant to be, it'll provide. Same with clients. When they're looking at homes, they get discouraged. Um, and I'm like, well, you didn't get the offer. It wasn't your home. It wasn't your purpose. And I think, Andy, you can relate. I think you've heard me say that before. I say the home intended from you by God will be there.
Mhm.
It got me more faithful. It learned to trust more. Like, He's got this. Like, what's meant to be is going to meant to be. Before, I would stress and stress and stress and stress of stuff I couldn't control. Do I still do it to a degree? Yeah, now, but it's more like, all right, I got a team of six. Okay, let me make sure we got work in. Let's make sure we close loans. Totally different than, I look at conditions now, like, oh, I'll get this done. And, you can ask any of my team, like, I've done some stuff, and even, one of my processors who's been in the industry for like 30 years. He's like, I don't see how you do that. And I remember telling him the other day, he called me Saturday, and I was going to the gym. I was like, it ain't me, man. It's God. Like, God's doing this. Like, I'm just the vessel to get these people in homes. Because that's
Wow.
how my shift has kind of changed. I believe in doing things the right way. I believe in being transparent. And that's how we're supposed to do it. And now, when I came in this industry, there's a lot of bad people. And I came as like, and I also grew up a wrestling fan. Grew up Hulk Hogan, and I love when he went to NWO and became the heel. So I came in this industry, and here's this new guy, and I'm I'm calling out builders for ripping off clients. I'm calling out other lenders.
Hmm. I think your audio cut out there for a minute.
There you go.
There
Sorry.
we go. Got you back.
There it goes. I had a technical difficulty, but I would call out people, Andy, and I would just tell them like, hey, like look at this, like, hey, if you're buying new construction, look what they're doing. Like, do this, do this. I wouldn't get the deals, but I probably had like 300 people that hit me up within a year, like because of your post. Like, I didn't get ripped off by that builder, or realtors. Like, I would call them out, like, how can you say you love your client when you're closing a loan with a lender that has bad rates? And I would teach them like, hey, when you have a realtor has lower, like 1% lower, and you do 24 deals a year, you're making an extra, like, I don't know, $30,000 in commission. That's a lot. Money's important to people. So I've got to the point where I've taught people like the importance of good lending and surrounding yourself with good people. Does everybody listen? No. I mean, you can't teach everybody, but I've came in this industry and I've kind of turned it upside down. I had a realtor told me the other day. I met her for lunch, and she's like, "You're like the Dennis Rodman in the industry. Like, you just come in and just do your own thing." I was like, "Well, I don't wear wigs. I don't marry myself, so stop." But I do. I mean, you see, I got the Lone Rangers. I used to have like, and I think you saw it, Andy. It was Mortgage with Jeremy. It was two hands like a heart with a hole with a house inside of it.
Yeah.
I had the hand with heart before it was famous by baseball players and stuff. It was my thing. I brought in like trademarks like my logos, and now we're the Lone Rangers, and no, I'm not going to be riding on a horse with tights. It's more the military side, like an Army Ranger. We
And
fight.
I want to hear about the Lone Rangers because, you know, as I'm like listening to your story, which
Mhm.
I've heard before, but it really has hit me different today. Like there were a lot of things there, just even through like the going all the way back to you taking the test, doing a 20-hour straight blitz, going in and passing it in 10 minutes. With gentlemen at the bar, right? And there were some things dropped during that where you're like, not the smartest guy in the room. I was broke at the time, like total career shift, new industry, uncertain. But there's this thread of faith and I would say showing up, like a consistent, like just behavior of like, I'm just going to show up and figure it
Mhm.
out, with that grit and that Mamba mentality. And then that being translated into like actually caring enough to do the right thing and want to impact people, coming back to you and building processes to become successful. That on its own is astounding. What's even more astounding on top of that, though, is like I've been able to work with like Jimmy and other team members on your unit on the Lone Rangers, and you guys all run at that pace. You guys all have a very high standard for yourselves, and it's very common. You know, we have a lot of business owners that listen and watch the show, and you know, there's some of them in which maybe the agent themselves is awesome to work with, but then they get passed to a team member, it gets delegated, and all of that magic is lost. I'm
Mhm.
really curious how you went about like growing that team to reflect your standards and like run the same pace that you do and how you implemented that. I think for anybody listening, it's incredibly important knowledge to understand how do you duplicate your excellence across an entire team and not just be, you know, the one shop show and you're the only one, because it can't be only you if you want to scale. So I'd love any input you have on that and just like the birth of the Lone Rangers, and then like just how you continue to like hire the right people, train the right people, set the right standards with the right people, etc.
Yeah, it was kind of like, it was more like, honestly, like I had like a mini TIA like after the hurricane last year, and me and Jimmy run a wild, and I was like, I got to do something. I'm gonna die. Like I remember my fiance, she was turning 39 last year in 2024, and I was so stressed out alone. I woke up and couldn't feel my legs. They had to bring me in and heart shock me from AFib. Um, so God kept giving me, you're like, hey, you got to do something. Like you're good, but you got to keep growing. But the way I did it, same with SOCOM, is I always want to be like everybody else. I don't want to be the face. I don't want to be that famous person. Like I remember at SOCOM, I would go sit with the janitors at lunch. I could have sat with high up executives. I could have sat with the bougie people, but I sat with I sat with the janitors. I sat with the people sweeping the floors. I would buy their lunch, and that's why I instilled my team. Like, you know, we say our commission's 3,000. I divide it and everybody makes the same. I'm not that guy. It's like, I'm making all the money, you're making peanuts.
Mm.
My team is paid well, but it, as you know, like building a team is hard. You got to have the right personalities. And a lot of people tell me like the disc model. I don't really go by that. I go by like people's like heart and soul. And I've gotten very lucky. So on my team, Jimmy, as you know, he came over. I had a good processor, and she came out of the industry. And I remember like the third party processing company called me and was like, hey, let's try this guy. Keep in mind, I'm a top producer. I remember calling Jimmy, and he lives in Jacksonville. And I was like, oh, this guy sounds like a surfer. Like, I don't know. I remember calling his boss, like, I don't know, let's give this kid like 2 weeks. I mean, he sounded like a kid. He's 42 years old, same age as me. And and I remember I was like, let me see. And he came, he was a pressure washer. He wanted a career change. He didn't want skin cancer. He got tired of working hard. Here he comes
Mm.
on this big producing guy's team, and I threw the kitchen sink, and he faked it well. And the dude, his mentality is, I do not want to suck. I was like, all right, I like this guy. But working for a third party processing, you don't make a lot of money. And I watched him bust his tail, work a lot of hours, and make a little bit of money. And I was like, all right, so he was my first pick. I'm like, I want him to come over and team lead. I want to give him a better life. Crystal Pentine on my team, she was a realtor back in the day. I met her when I first came in and gave everybody free headshots, and she showed up. They love free food and free headshots, what realtors do. And, you know, we became friends. I did her personal loan. And I was in Orlando last year, and I saw on Facebook she was going to UWM with another lender. And I called her. I was like, what are you doing? I brought her over. She lives out in the country. Her husband's a disabled vet. And, you know, she was a transaction coordinator, and she wasn't even getting paid $200 a deal. The people were shorting her. She was struggling. So I brought her on. I was like, okay, she's a good fit. Heather Giroux, she just came on my team. She was a former client. Actually, when I was just talking about the one that where my body went numb and I had to get my heart shocked, it was her deal. Her appraisal came in $77,000 low. We kept in contact. She used to be a former realtor. Just brought her on. She had to get her license. Mandy Kuzak, she called me out of the blue. Her and her husband, who's from Cuba, because she heard from my second mom, like, "Hey, call Jeremy. He does mortgages." So she called me and we started talking. I was like, "Wait, you used to do mortgages? Like, wait, hang on." He's like, "Yeah, Jeremy, you came in my office where I was working and you beat me in rate and I pushed me out of my career and started like a construction business." I'm like, "Hey, would you like a job?" And she came on the same night.
Wow.
So I kind of call my team like the Misfit Islands, kind of. But we're all like, it's a good fit. Like we all get along. We also have Brittany DeBalo who does like all the home insurance stuff. It's a good fit. It's like we're like the motley crew of the industry. I'm never going to be the guy to wear a suit and tie, and I'm always going to wear my T-shirt and my hats and stuff like that because I'm just a normal guy like everybody else. But it takes a while to find out where they're good at. So again, I got lucky. When you're building a team, you got a lot of trials and tribulations. Did I bring a few people on, didn't work out? Absolutely, but that's just part of the business. But I learned to listen to people and their needs and stuff. But I also, like my industry, I had to have people with thick skin because our industry, it's the clients don't mean it or realtors, but it's a lot of stress and you can't have someone that folds like a paper bag essentially.
And a lot of emotions in a mortgage, any type of
But
anything like that with the customer as well. And I could see how it could get probably very out of hand very quickly, depending on the emotions of the people you're dealing with, for sure.
But I do like, so my team sees, I'll never ask them to do something I wouldn't do. I tell them to take a break at 5 o'clock. I'm up at 2 o'clock in the morning. But they see me like I'm in there grinding with them. I'm fighting conditions. I'm clearing dishes. I'm doing whatever I have to. I'm out at brokers opens. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. And I'm just like them. So I think as a leader, when you relate to your team and you're not just like some guy wearing a suit, collect all the money, you're in the trenches with them, it relates more. And the same with like SoCon, when I was leading up people, it's the same thing. And I instilled that mentality. That's the one thing I take away from like Jordan. I love Michael Jordan, but he was always the big dog. But it was the Scottie Pippens, the Ron Harpers, the Dennis Rodman, Tony Kukocs that made him famous. And my team, like I give them freedom, and I tell them like I don't want you to look at documents. I want you to go to the back end. I want you to the front end. But I also teach them. I was like, hey, I want you one day to be so successful that you don't need my team. You go out and build your own team, and that's why I instill in them. It's just a different mentality that I bring. But I if someone gets out of line with Crystal, like I had one last night, I called the client. I was like, hey, we can't have you saying the C word to a female. Like, we're not going to do that. You can go somewhere else. But they respect that because, yeah, I'm a big name. I'm a big face. I'm a big producer, but I'm also on those calls. I'm fighting for them. And I feel like in business, like when you have a boss that's just like you and it's not bigger than a team, it flourishes. And that's what's happened. Heather Giroux called me at 11 o'clock at night. I'm at the gym on the elliptical and we're doing a call. We're doing a training session. Sunday night, I was doing Zooms with them, showing how I register loans and not many like people do that. A lot of people in my industry that have the face, they just go out and dress in their fancy clothes and bring work in, but they don't know what's going on with their loans. They're not out working late. 2 weeks ago I was vomiting up blood again from stress, but I got those deals closed. And I think that's like more of a mentality like Jesus too. Like he was a leader of the disciples, but he was one of them, if that makes sense. And that's how I look at it. Like we're kind of like disciples of mortgages, but we're all the same. I don't do well with names. Like they put like we got this little flyer and they got me as a team lead. I'm like, I don't really like that name. I just want to be a guy. Like just have me as like the janitor. Call me the janitor. I do everything. But it's a cool experience. But again, sometimes I stop and like, wow, like I built a team. Like wow, like realtors call me. Realtors call me like, hey, can you save this deal? Like I made a mistake. Can you do this? Can you do that?
Mm.
It's like, can you come to my team of 30 people and train them? like my realtors be more successful. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. But it's a blessing. Now, is there days I'm like, wow, I don't want to do this. This is a lot of stress. But when you see a family get and make memories in a home and get those keys, it's worth it every time. Um, and I go to my team. I was like, hey, this is going to be a hard one. We can be two ways. We can look greedy and be a villain and make zero because the deal ain't going to close, or we could be the hero and make $1 because we can't technically do a deal for free. We can charge them $1 based on guidelines. And I'm like, we can be the hero and we can get that single mom to the house. And that's what we do. I enjoy what I do. I love talking to my clients. Like last night, I called a client, went over his loan estimate. I was helping him do his fantasy football drafts. like, and Chris was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "This is what I like," and that's why I instill my teams like, don't call my clients with a loan estimate. Don't call them with a final CD. Don't call any, like when you call them, ask them how their weekend was. Ask them how their day was. How's their kids? How's their wife? How's their sports? How's their football team? And that's why I instill like Crystal. Like today, we personally touch our realtors and our clients. Like, hey, hope all's well. Friday's always like Friday afternoon is like, hey team, we're gonna huddle up. We're all gonna reach out to all of our clients and wish them a good weekend.
Really, really incredible to hear Jeremy's story and just like what he's built, being a 1%er, but also doing that on faith, doing that on grit, doing that with that Mamba mentality. Like it's really wild to hear, that story and then how it proliferates through the rest of his team. So we'll see if he's able to connect here. I know his internet was a little bit back and forth this morning, but regardless if he's able to come back on or not, I hope you guys have really soaked a lot of the sun in and really enjoyed the show so far. And learned a lot from it. I think that, we see a lot of extremes in the industry that we're within. We see individuals who do have, the trophies on the wall and they're crushing it and they, are always kind of out there and it's like all about them winning, which is fine. It's great. Right. But then you've got individuals on the other side of that are winning at the highest levels, but everything that they say and breathe, everything that exudes from their business is all about servitude. It's about impact. It's, hey, maybe as a business owner or a producer, I got to take a temporary hit to do the right thing and lift this person up. But that's the type of thing that begins to bake into your brain and your soul, right? Purpose, far beyond money, far beyond commissions. It's like, what impact am I going to have? But then it's self-evident, right? Through like Jeremy's story, seeing the level of success they've had. And it makes sense, right? If you, as an insurance agency owner, go in with a attitude of servitude, how can I come in and impact people at the highest levels? What can I do today to change somebody's life for the better? Truly, right? And that is the mission and the mentality of how you operate. Just imagine how many people want to refer business to you. Next time they need something, they want to do business with you again. Like there's no way they want to go to like a transactional environment and work with somebody who's just trying to, do an efficient sales process and be done with you. This impact piece. If you heard them say like on Fridays, like as a team, hey guys, let's take some time and reach out to some current clients, right? And actually just spread out some love in there to our client base. All of these things add up to a formula that has gotten these guys in 5 years with no former mortgage experience, top 1%. So if that could work in his industry, why not in your agency? Why not in your sales pipeline, right? Why not for you and your team? Which is one of the big reasons I wanted to bring Jeremy in today, is to talk through that. Not to mention just his story is absolutely mind-boggling, and just some of the background with his near-death experience and SOCOM and sitcom and all of that. So he may or may not have an internet connection that's going to cooperate to bring him back in. But just like in business, we got to be nimble. So I want to thank everybody for being here with us today. And for anybody watching, I also want to put out an open invitation. If there's anybody that you would like to nominate to be part of the show, or if you yourself want to come in as an expert, reach out to me. I'd love to sit down, get to know you a little bit better, understand the areas that you have expertise in, learn a little bit about your background, and we can put together a really cool show. So if there's anybody who wants to step forward and look at doing something with us on here, we'd love to talk with you. You can always reach out to me on Facebook, just at Andy Arter Official. And thank you everybody so much for another hour of your time here on Ask the Experts, where we come to you every single Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, bringing experts from insurance, other industries, vendors, business owners, entrepreneurs, people that have gone through trials in their life and they've turned it into something beautiful and they've turned it into success. So we will see you next week. You guys have a great rest of your week and really, really appreciate your time today. Till next time.